Hey you and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, we're going to examine an unsolved mystery. Specifically, from the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, sounds about right. We're going to Portland, Oregon, people. The year being 2010. After attending a science fair on June the 4th, 2010, Kyron Horman vanished. Somewhere in the dense forests of Forest Park. Or did he? This case, it has a lot of theories, it has a lot of speculation about what actually happened, which we will get into. So how about it? The 4th of June 2010 was the second last Friday of the school year. Everybody was getting ready for the big break and probably already halfway out the door. 7-year-old Kyron Horman was mad to get into school that day, as it was Science Fair Day at Skyline Elementary School in Portland, where Kyron was in 2nd grade. Though saying Skyline Elementary was in Portland is quite a loose term. It's actually just outside the city in a fairly dense and woody area. Lots of forests, so many they even named a big old park after them. Forest Park is massive, one of the biggest urban parks in the US of A. Lots of places to disappear. In fact, a man and his daughter lived in the park for 4 years, undetected. So, that day Kyron was dying to get into school, and he did get into school. Now, he usually rode the school bus. He lived 2 miles away. But on this particular day, Kyron was driven to school by his stepmother, Terri Horman. She also had her baby daughter in the car. So they rocked up in Terry's truck. Terri actually hoped to bring Kyron's science project home that morning, but she didn't realize it was going to go on all day. They arrived at the school at 8 a.m. They dropped off Kyron's coat and backpack at his classroom, and then they went to the school gym to set up his exhibit. About, what else? Red-eyed tree frogs. Multiple people say they saw Kyron, Terri, and baby Kira together in the gym shortly after 8 a.m. And so, after wandering around a bit, having a go at all the science projects, Terri and her baby left the school at around 8:45 a.m. as classes were starting. Terri would say the last time she saw Kyron was when he was walking to class as, the bells started ringing. He was going to maths class. She called his name, he waved back. However, Kyron was marked absent by his teacher, and he was gone. Kyron Horman was born on the 9th of September 2002 to Kane and Desiree Horman, parents that were already in the shit by the time he was born. See, Kane and Desiree married back in 2000, but by the time Kyron was conceived, they weren't too keen on each other. They had actually planned to separate, then they learned they had a baby boy in the way, stayed together, nope, change of mind, and then they divorced 8 months into the pregnancy. Kyron would spend the first 2 years of, life with his mother Desiree until 2004 rolled around, and she developed kidney problems due to medication she was on, so she had to go to Canada to receive treatment, so Kyron then went to live with his dad, Kane, who was an engineer at Intel. But see, Kane worked long hours at Intel. Jesus, they grind you down. And so, speaking with Desiree, who obviously wasn't around to look after Kyron either, they were like, who can we get to, help us? Raise our kid while he's at work. And so, they reached out to, guess who? Eventual stepmom, Terri. At the time, Terri Moulton. Terri agreed to move in with Kane and provide full-time childcare. Now, Terri was a teacher and former bodybuilder. She had been married twice before, had a son, but by the time she moved in with the Hormans, she was struggling to get work. So, she was happy to look after Kyron, and even happier to have a place to stay for her and her boy. This was because she had a drunk driving conviction from 2005. So, Terri moved in with Kane and Kyron. Seemed like, just a babysitter, person at the time. Not so. Terri and Kane already knew each other very well. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. They had actually had an affair years prior when Kane and Desiree's marriage started going down the toilet. It eventually ended, but of course, when Terri moved back in, don't it just start up again? In April of 2007, Terri Moulton became Terri Horman, after a beautiful ceremony in Hawaii. In 2008, Kane and Terri would welcome another child. So at this stage, you got Kane, Terri, Terri's older son, Kyron, and baby Kira. Kyron's mother Desiree was struggling herself. Huge medical bills after her treatment. She herself eventually married a police detective named Tony Young. Now, as far as anyone can tell, everybody got along together. Kane retained custody of Kyron, but he saw his mother regularly. Apparently, Kyron really liked his stepdad, Detective Tony, wanting to be a police officer himself when he grew up. So, happy out. Alright, now listen up. Let's get back to June the 4th, 2010, the day Kyron Horman vanished. So the last time Terri, or really anybody we know, saw Kyron was when he was walking to class. And that was it. But, let's stick with Terri for a while. As I said, she was one of the last people to see him, and she was also, close with him. So, what was she up to that day? After she left the school, shortly before 9 we'll say, she first went to a Fred Meyer store to pick up a prescription for her baby daughter, who had an ear infection. Apparently she went to the wrong one, realised and had to go to another where they had her prescription. Then she dropped off at a dry cleaner's, went to a craft store, and we more or less know her timeline until about 10:10. Then there is just like a 90-minute window, when she just kind of doesn't exist. She would say she was driving around back roads as the motion, helped her baby daughter with, the discomfort of the ear infection. She may or may not have made a call at about 10:40 a.m, that's unconfirmed. See, her cell phone was pinged at a tower that gives reception to Sauvie Island. So, did she go over there during this gap? Maybe up to no good? No, she didn't, because there's only one way onto Sauvie Island. It's a bridge that has security cameras, and Terri wasn't seen on it. Terri was next seen at the gym, entering at 11:39 a.m. She left her baby at the on-site daycare, spent some time pumping the guns, and arrived home at 12:40. An hour later, at 1:21, she uploaded pictures to Facebook, including pictures of Kyron at the science fair that very morning. She also sent an email to Kyron's teacher, asking if she could pick up his science project. At 2, Daddy Kane arrived home from work, planning to spend the rest of the day working from home. At 3:30 p.m, Kane, Terri and the baby, they did a little wander over to the bus stop to wait for Kyron to arrive home. But he never got off the bus, and the school bus driver would tell them he never got on the bus. The school was then called, and the secretary noticed he'd been marked absent. So where the hell was he? And the secretary called 911 at 3:46 p.m. The investigation then began.
Kyron!
Kyron!
Search crews combed the area around Skyline Elementary looking for Kyron Horman.
A search immediately began at the school. However, unfortunately, unlike most schools, this one had no security cameras. Also, the school that morning was more or less open to anyone that wanted to get in. No one was required to sign in at the front office, as per normal. So, what happened? Well, it was actually a strange series of events that no one caught. He was gone. See, usually when a child is marked absent, the parents are informed. But Terri had informed Kyron's teachers that he had a doctor's appointment that day. Now, he didn't have a doctor's appointment that day. His doctor's appointment was actually for the following Friday. But miscommunication... yeah, that's how no one caught he wasn't there.
Yeah, we definitely got a late start here. Family didn't know that he wasn't at school. His teacher didn't see him, so we are feeling like we are behind the 8 ball here.
Terri had scheduled a doctor's appointment as, she says, a doctor thought he might be having mini seizures. Apparently he couldn't remember things, would walk into a room and just stare, just acting off. So as the day turned into evening, turned into night, the search intensified. When Kyron's mother Desiree arrived, she immediately began to, fear that he'd been abducted. She didn't think he would leave school willingly. He wore glasses, but when he didn't have his glasses on, he had extremely poor eyesight. And she said that one of Kyron's fears was not being able to find his way home. So things are getting sinister as shit. Interviews were conducted, and Kyron wasn't labelled kidnapped, but missing, as no one was able to place him, really at any time of the day other than that morning in the school gymnasium. Kyron's coat and backpack were still in the school. Suspicions, as they usually do, began to mount on the family who weren't keen on speaking to the press. People thought they may be hiding something. They did eventually give a press conference.
Here with me today is Kyron Horman, Terri Horman, Tony Young, and Desiree Young. And remember, they stand together here today as a family. All our families, keep your prayers and thoughts on our little boy, because you never know the type of information that can come back to us and we can find him. So with that being said, Tony, can you come on down?
Hello, my name is Tony Young, and I'm Kyron's stepfather. The family's asked me to speak on their behalf today. I would just like to say, Kyron, we miss you, we love you, and we need you home right now. We're doing everything we can to work with law enforcement and the search and the rescue crews to make sure that you can get back to us as soon as possible. We want to say how much we appreciate the outpouring of love and support, prayer and thoughts as we wait for you.
Hi, I'm Kane. I'm Kyron's father. We want to thank the community, the parents, the children, bus drivers, and all of those who are being interviewed multiple times to help find Kyron. Thank you. We as the family know how difficult and stressful this is, but your memories and statements can help us find Kyron. We will never be able to thank you enough for that help. Finally, we would like to thank the media. If it was not for you showing Kyron on every newscast, printing his story in the papers, his face would not be known to everyone. People from around the nation have seen his picture. This helps tremendously. Please help us bring Kyron home.
The search continued and eventually expanded to Sovey Island, which has always been viewed as something about that, especially due to Terri's phone ping. However, an extensive search of the island would bring up jack shit.
Kyron was last seen by his mother at school walking to his classroom after a science fair. Today, police in Oregon are expanding the search for a missing 7-year-old boy. They are also asking for any photos or...
there's always an off chance that he wandered off and he was just fine. He just got lost and somebody picked him up and was trying to help him out.
Police in Portland, Oregon this morning say that they're still concentrating on the area where he was last seen.
It has been nearly a week since Kyron Horman vanished from his elementary.
And authorities have been following up now on more than 1,200 tips.
Officials admit the clock is ticking.
The search would be one of the largest in state history and would end on June 13th, 9 days after he went missing. However, that's when the criminal investigation began. Back to the family, as things usually go, and all were very cooperative with the investigators, with the police, all passed polygraphs. All except Terri, the last person to see Kyron. Now, although polygraphs always come up, they always come up in cases that we talk about, it's widely known that they're bullshit. Polygraphs are just bullshit. But when she failed it, she more or less painted a big old bullseye on herself. And everything she would do after this point would make that bullseye just even bigger. Talking to her friends, it was revealed that things weren't as good as people thought. Terri was upset with Kane because Kane made her son move out of the house a few months prior. Kane and her son didn't get on. And apparently, she wrote an email to a friend at one stage blaming Kyron for the problems in her marriage to Kane. Apparently, he was abusive and planning on divorcing her. And it seemed like Terri didn't like Kyron very much at all. Then, 3 weeks after Kyron's inexplicable vanishing, the shit hit the fan, my friends. Kane was asked to come into the sheriff's office alone, where he was told an undercover operation was going on at his home. Now, it wasn't in relation to the disappearance of his 7-year-old boy. See, apparently, get this, Terri had hired the family gardener, Rodolfo Sanchez, to kill Kane. What the Sherry told Rodolfo, Rudy for short, that Kane carried around just a shitload of kibosha. And, just kill him, make it look like a mugging. And even better for Rudy, right? He carried around usually about 10 grand and an expensive laptop, so you kill him, you get to keep the whole bit. A whole lot. Don't mind if I do. So, Rudy and an undercover cop posing as Agent 47 in this situation rocked up to the house and began bartering with Terri. However, Terri, smelling bullshit, called the cops. Now, she didn't cooperate with the undercover operation, so she never actually committed a crime. She wasn't charged.
Hello, I'm Tracy Barrett.
And I'm Joe Donlin. First at 6, the Kyron Horman investigation takes another turn. Now a reliable source tells News Channel 8 officers were prepared to arrest stepmom Terri Horman for hiring a hitman to kill her husband.
More than a month after 7-year-old Kyron Horman disappeared, the focus remains on his stepmother, Terri Horman. Detectives aren't saying that Terri is a person of interest or suspect in the case, but a reliable source tells News Channel 8 that police were prepared to arrest Terri for plotting to kill her husband, Kane. Terri offered to pay a landscaper for the murder, saying Kane had hurt her emotionally, and that an undercover detective accompanied the landscaper to Terri's home on June 26th. The source goes on to say that if Terri had implicated herself in trying to arrange Kane's murder, police would have arrested her. The landscaper was wearing a wire, but sources say Terri suspected something was up and cut the conversation short.
Now, regarding the gardener Rudy, was he coerced into taking part in this undercover operation under threat of deportation of not only him, but his family? Maybe. In fact, this whole part of the story is a bit iffy. Apparently, Rudy couldn't speak English, like barely at all, and Terri's Spanish was no bueno. So, yeah, this whole part of the story, whether there actually was a hitman plot, is kind of taking it with a grain of salt. Anyways, the police told Kane, who got out of the house, and Terri became suspect numero 1.
We implore Terri Horman to fully cooperate with the investigators to bring Kyron home.
Know where Kyron is?
Hey.
Terri, do you know where Kyron is? Desiree and your husband are saying that you know where Kyron is.
While the public keeps watch for any sign of Kyron, the boy's birth parents are focusing on his stepmother, Terri. Kane Horman just revealed to CBS News what he believes about his wife's fragile emotional state since their daughter was born a year and a half ago.
I think there was some postpartum depression involved.
Sort of shut down and withdrawn, or angry, and...
A little bit of everything.
During the same interview, Desiree Young shared for the first time that she knew Terri was unable to account to police for her actions for several hours on June 4th, the day Kyron went missing.
I can tell you what I ate that day, and she can't tell you where she was.
Kane would also file a restraining order against Terri and also file for divorce. Womp womp. This also, wouldn't you know it, wouldn't be the first time owl Terri would be connected to a murder-for-hire plot. Allegedly, in 1990, Terri Horman was dating a man named Sean Ray. She was 20, himself 18. After they got some Chinese food, they sat to eat in a park when a man came out of the bushes with a gun aimed at Sean. Terri apparently shouted, "He's here for you!" Then looked very stupid when the guy didn't shoot Sean and just, wandered off. Sean broke up with Terri soon after, for some reason, don't know why. Now time for a little sidebar as we talk about Terri's naughty messages. Get ready, lads. So, shortly after Kyron's disappearance, an old friend of Kane's, name of Michael Cook, showed up. He had never met Terri before, but became very involved in the search. After Kane and the baby left Terri, Michael and his Mickey started texting Terri. "Gone sexual!" Emoji wink face. Let's give him a read. Not safe for work, by the way. Terri's on the left, Michael's on the right. "You are a doll. Men don't approach me because they know I can outbench them. Do you know I've never dated anyone I couldn't bench their weight? I weigh about 180. I can do 195. I'm speechless. JK, I will pin you down and sit on you." Whoa. Okay, yada yada yada, let's skip to foreplay. "I've been told I do something very well," says Terri. "Something?" "Sucking cock." motherfucker. Lol, get your ass over here and I will show you how I can do a golf ball through a garden hose. This is gas. It kind of goes on and on. It's pretty cringeworthy, and it's like a parody of sexting. He eventually left Portland. It ended there, though this didn't help Terry's case, obviously. So let's move on. I'm just gonna say it now. Did Terri have something to do with Kyron's disappearance? I don't know, but everything she did after he disappeared just made herself look worse. It's like, dig up, stupid.
7-year-old Kyron Horman has been missing for 2 months, disappearing from a most unlikely place, his elementary school in Portland, Oregon. Since then, the investigation has focused on a most unlikely person, Kyron's own stepmother.
Are there any new leads at all?
Many. Lots of
Anything
news.
you can talk about or share?
No.
However, seemingly the most unlikely person is still the focus of this investigation, Kyron's own stepmother. Pictures she posted on Facebook would suggest they had the perfect family, a trip to Disneyland, dressed alike on Halloween, family vacations. But Kyron Horman says Terri is not the woman he married. Since the second grader's disappearance, he says Terri, who has not been named a suspect, has failed 2 polygraph tests.
If Terri did this, what could her motivation be?
I have tried to put my head inside hers, and I can't.
Let's meet a longtime gym buddy of Terri's, name of Dee Dee Spicer. She was a good friend of Terri, was close with her. She stayed with Terri after Kyron filed for divorce. On the day Kyron disappeared, Dee Dee was doing some gardening work in Portland. And according to the homeowner, she abruptly left at 11:30 a.m., was unavailable for about an hour and a half until she showed up again at 1 p.m. So she had some kind of unexplainable absence on the day Kyron disappeared, and she was Terri's best friend who apparently hated Kyron. Police are already very interested in Terri, so they were dying to speak to her accomplice. Dee Dee also became aware that the police were monitoring her and Terri's phones, so she bought them both burner phones. She would also lawyer up, and the police were never really able to get anything incriminating out of her. Everything just makes it look like they have something to hide. A tip would come in from a witness saying they had seen a person standing by a white truck on the access road the buses used to get to the school. Terri drove a white truck. 2 witnesses said they had seen that truck and that there was another adult inside of it that day. Now we should note though the groundskeeper, as you can see here, also drove a white truck. So did the people who saw, 2 people in a white truck, was that just the groundskeeper and maybe somebody else, or who knows? However, unfortunately, nothing came of that. In fact, nothing kind of came of anything. In June of 2012, 2 years after Kyron's disappearance, Desiree filed a civil suit against Terri, claiming she was responsible for his disappearance.
The time has come for Terri to take responsibility for what she has done and to tell me and my family where Kyron is and how he got there.
During a deposition, Dee Dee would refuse to answer questions, pleading the fifth, including questions regarding her whereabouts on the day that Kyron disappeared, as well as her contact with Terri that day. Now remember during that 90-minute gap, blank spot on Terri, the day Kyron disappeared. Remember I said there was a report of an unconfirmed phone call that she might have made. She didn't make anything to Dee Dee, that we know. There was nothing on her phone. And a year later, Desiree dropped the civil suit against Terri due to the ongoing criminal investigation.
On June 4th last year, I filed a civil case against Terri Horman for her role and responsibility in the disappearance of my son, Kyron Horman. Kyron is still missing to this day. It has now been over 3 years. Terri continues to not cooperate with law enforcement and the investigation in any way. In order for my lawyers to move forward with the case at this point, it would be necessary for them to seek access to the police criminal investigation file. My lawyers have advised me that the Oregon Public Records Disclosure Law does not provide the release of ongoing police investigation files, and I do not want anything that might compromise the investigation. The Because my civil case cannot move forward without the police files, it is with great disappointment that I make this difficult decision. I don't want anything to compromise the ongoing investigation for Kyron.
That same year, being 2013, the divorce between Terri and Kane was finalised. During the divorce case, that lasted about 3.5 years, Kane stated Terri suffered from postpartum depression after her baby's birth, and her behaviour changed. In court documents, he claimed she is an alcoholic, has a personality disorder, and is severely emotionally disturbed. Terri eventually started fresh, or tried to. She actually tried to change her name from Horman, twice to be precise, but the judge wouldn't let her do it due to the ongoing criminal investigation. She got a job as a caregiver, however, when the media found out, she quit. She believes Kyron was kidnapped by a man in a white pickup truck, one she said she saw parked at a 7-Eleven near the school. Apparently he looked dodgy and asked where the nearest school was.
Why do you think the police have never charged you, called you a suspect, or even a person of interest?
Because they have exonerating evidence they have not shown the public, and they should come forth with what they know.
What's your theory on what happened?
That he was taken from school.
So you think a stranger came in and abducted him?
Yes, and there's pedophiles in the area, definitely.
She lives in California now. She was arrested twice there, once for stealing a gun from a roommate, and then also for driving a stolen car. However, despite all this shit that happened, the search for Kyron continues. No one knows what happened to him. No one really knows what happened that day during that small window. And it's an ongoing investigation.
Today marks 9 years since my son, Kyron Horman, disappeared. It has been 9 years of not knowing where he went or what happened to him. 9 years without hugging him. 9 years without his smiles or his laughs. 9 years without his love. My heart is broken.
The search area has been reduced to less than 100 acres.
Now I can tell you that we've narrowed it down to less than 100 acres. So it's a huge amount of progress with all the searches that we've done, whether it's law enforcement or private. We've been able to get to a point where at least I feel better. I don't look at all those rolling hills and think we're looking, as far as the eye can see. We're not. We're looking in key areas, and we've narrowed it down.
Where have you narrowed it to?
I can't say that.
According to a book released in 2020, Boy Missing: The Search for Kyron Horman by Rebecca Morris, several people saw Kyron Horman leaving Skyline School with his stepmother the morning he disappeared. Kyron's regular bus driver, along with a classmate and 2 of the classmates' family members, witnessed Kyron walk through the school parking lot with Terri Horman and her infant daughter on June 4th, 2010.
Primarily what police and the FBI and the DA's office shared with Desiree. Early on, they told her and Kane that, in fact, Terri was seen leaving the school with Kyron, which disputes everything that Terri has said all these years. They pulled back on that statement for a while, but eventually Kane and Desiree were told that it was true, that at least 2 adults and a child had seen Terri walk out with Kyron, and with, of course, Terri's baby daughter was with him too. And literally one of the adults said they weren't holding hands walking out together, but they left the school together. So that's circumstantial evidence, but it's very strong circumstantial evidence.
So much in this case just does not make sense. And there's this tiny window, if Terri is telling the truth, by the way, where she saw him walking to class and him not showing up at that class. What happened in that school? Did someone walk in and take him? Did Terri take him? Did somebody else take him out of the school, lure him out of the school? Because it doesn't seem like he would have left willingly. He seemed like a good kid who wouldn't, skip class. And he had a science project he was really excited to show that day. There is a reward of $50,000 for any information that brings him home. If you ever heard anything or saw anything, please give this number a bell. Really a tragic case. You know, Kyron's mother, Desiree, said that one of his fears was being unable to find his way home. And, well, hopefully, one day he will. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you, as always, real soon in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Mike out.